You are running with the Devils, and Big John, it's the end to a long season. It's been a tough one this year, but we're here riding it out with all of you. I'm the RyKno, Ryan Knowles. Sitting next to me is always Big John Caldwell, and Big John.
Yo yo yo.
You and I both made the trek down to made the pilgrimage down to the unholy place there, the old Pueblo down south there to Tucson. We went down there last Friday. Kind of, didn't really know what to expect with these two teams going in, but it was unfortunate the Devils weren't able to pull it out there at the end. They had an opportunity, they had a couple chances to pull out a win against a team that was that was favored and looked to have just things better together in U of A. But ASU showed a lot of heart, even as the season's coming to an end. A lot of these guys are talking about, already talking about moving on and whatnot. But ASU still showed some heart, a lot of heart in this game, as they did in a lot of their games. They didn't give up. They fought for 60 minutes. You leave disappointed that you didn't pull out the win, but certainly proud of this team that the way that they played. They haven't been getting blown out or just run off the field. They've actually been in most of these games, haven't been able to kind of execute in crunch time.
No, I think Iguano deserves a lot of credit for keeping their heads in the game, keeping them the eyes on the prize. Not that we had the better. We just had we made more turnovers. Quite frankly, we had less chances to score.
And you take 5 turnovers. Yes, it did end up being the difference in the
crushing.
game. You take even one of those out, I think ASU pulls this game out. So it was unfortunate. They do end the season on a low note, losing their last 4 to finish 3-9, their worst record since 1946.
And yet, there was
some players. Very disappointing. We're with you, Sun Devil Nation. We're disappointed as well. But things have to get worse before they get better.
In this case, the fact that some kids really, were playing to get good film for going to the league or getting tryouts. Other kids were playing because it was the rivalry game, and I kind of thought. I went to the practice on Thursday, Thanksgiving Day, and I did not like what I was seeing at all. And I can tell you, between Thursday and Friday, something changed, and I think some of the leaders stepped up and had some words. I know some former players came in, and DJ Foster and Rudy Burgess came in and gave some talks to the guys. In the end, I just think you can't turn I don't care who we're playing. 5 turnovers is going to kill you. And but I was very proud of the way I thought Bourget played his heart out. A lot of courage, a lot of moxie out there. And then guys like Conyer. We'll go into who had good games and whatnot here in a second. But it's we've got it gave some certain people some things to think about in terms of what to build on for next year. I can tell you this will be an entirely different kind of program come next year, entirely based on what's going on just in the last couple of days here. We'll get into the new coach and things in a moment.
Definitely, yeah, and I think that's what ASU fans kind of want to hear, because things just weren't working this year with the way things went down, and I think change is good in this case, and can certainly go up from here. And with that, ASU didn't waste much time making a hire, making a change. Former ASU student, graduate assistant Kenny Dillingham hired as the new head coach. Dilly.
There you go.
And this is the first time that an ASU alum and Arizona native has been the head coach at ASU. A very exciting time. He definitely won the press conference. Showed a lot of emotion, a lot of passion. I think his appeal to the ASU, fan base, the students, everybody, I think kind of resonated. And the off season's off to a good start with Kenny Dillingham now at the helm of the ASU Sun Devils.
I can tell you the process that, as Ray explained, it was very impressive. This was not a knee-jerk, quick go get the youngest guy or get the hottest.
No,
they brought
you couldn't do it that way.
No, they had a nice group of people who had very football knowledgeable, who were ASU diehard, maroon and gold. They bled maroon and gold, and they had these people were well. We brought in for the first time a really good search firm who vetted ahead of time a lot of these guys. Ray did a lot of the first interviews. Pro got the second, but there was a lot of some great players that sort of looked at every step kept saying, here's the list, and obviously Dillingham kept making the list.
Kept coming back to Kenny, and I think that the right decision was been made when you look at what else was out there. There were certainly some bigger names, but certainly we'll go over his resume here in a little bit. But things we're definitely excited and I think satisfied with the hire. Certainly want to see what he does recruiting wise, coaching these players up, scheme wise, just what as far as what happens on the field. I think we're all very interested to see, but again, we at least got to wait till spring to see what happens there. But it should be very interesting to watch, and I definitely like what he brings to the table, and his track record, what he's done at previous programs is very encouraging.
I've known Kenny since Chaparral versus Saguaro days. I knew him when he came over to Saguaro for 10 weeks. I've known him when he was at ASU. He's the guy is just he's on fire. He's very enthusiastic. He's very compelling, and he can lead men. I think he's young enough to have and the people he's bringing around him are young enough and accessible enough to the players that it's going to be a new dynamic. And he did one key thing, Ryan, I think that earned a lot of people's respect. He said he's going to keep Sean Aguano, and if for no other reason, if Sean is going to be one of your best ambassadors for the program, one of your top recruiting guys. I mean, you can't help but feel comfortable having your son go to school.
Yeah, and
that comes from being
a big asset. And somebody, when you look at what Sean Aguano did, even though the win-loss record didn't necessarily reflect it, we certainly had a discussion about him being the permanent head coach. But from just a continuity standpoint, and for what Sean Aguano certainly has the players' ears and has their respect. So you want that carrying over into the next regime.
If you have to put together a team of people who get ASU, his name's going to be on the list. Aguano's going to be on the list, and fortunately, we'll get into the coaching, the people he's announced, and some of the other names that are being bandied about. But the one common thing that's going on here, folks, is that this is a new day. This is very ASU centric, and it might be young, but he's going to fire up a lot of people, going to fire up a lot of recruits. And he gets ASU. Okay.
Yes.
He gets what
he went to school. He went to school at ASU.
He understands the market. Yeah, the market. He understands what's going on in this market.
Definitely. He's from being from Arizona. Yeah, you're absolutely right. He gets it. And just bringing that to the table, I think is a big asset, and certainly something that warrants, so it's something that's been missing, I think, from the head coach, somebody that really gets it and understands the importance of local recruiting that they really haven't had.
Right.
I'd even make the argument since Bruce Snyder.
Yeah.
At times, guys like Cutter or Todd Graham, who would recruit good local talent, there were other players that they would pass up on. And you leave yourself, scratching your head as to why. Whereas a guy like Kenny Dillingham, he sees the local talent, he knows the programs and where to go, and he has good relationships with the coaches.
Yeah,
he's going to put in the effort to really do what we've been asking for so long and build a fence around. Yeah, certainly Maricopa County, but at some point even the state. Yeah. Keep the best talent in Tempe.
Yeah, here's my thing. If you had to design a head coach from the ground up that was going to be here, if Frank Cush is the model, who's going to be here for 20 years, this guy's name would be on the list. Everybody else is not of that age group or that or that group who understands what ASU is all about. So
or the ilk, maybe he's looking for his next big job.
This is his dream job. And he's surrounding himself with nothing but people who this is the dream job. I think, yeah. So he gets it that we're everybody's tired of 6 wins in El Paso, Bulls, right?
Right.
No, it's unacceptable to somebody like this.
Agreed.
Yeah, let's get into the recap.
Yeah, now we're going to get in. Yeah, we definitely want to. We'll talk Kenny Dillingham more certainly, and the pending off season here. But we got to recap this defeat to the U of A. Obviously, never like to talk about a loss, but hey, we've kind of gotten used to it here on Running with the Devils. And this week's recap presented by the Valley Athletic Booster Club. To support local athletics, check out valleyathleticboosterclub.com. And certainly some takeaways from this game. Obviously the winning streak, that's a 5-game winning streak in the Territorial Cup, comes to an end for ASU. Sucks losing to the Wildcats, obviously, but the Devils committing those 5 turnovers, which ultimately was the difference in this game. 3 fumbles, 1 on special teams, and those 2 interceptions. One of which was Jorge gets hit, throws it up in the air, and one of the Wildcats comes down with it. And coming into this game, U of A only had 2 interceptions on the season.
Correct. Yep.
2. So that was hard to take. And then Devils really struggled to stop the run for the majority of the game. U of A rushing for 280 yards as a team. I wasn't really impressed with Jaden Delora's ability to throw the ball. He did complete some long balls to Dorian Singer, but was really Michael Wiley, his ability to make plays after on the ground, that was really the main factor for their offense.
Yeah, if he could get to the second level, it was pretty much a big gain all game
especially
long.
After that, especially on that 72-yard touchdown run that he had, when it looked like ASU takes the lead, looks like they're coming back, and just weren't able to stop.
I think they caught us a couple of times
until the very end.
Yeah, I think they caught us a couple of times in the wrong D. I think in some big running situations we were in the we only had 2 linebackers. We were in nickel.
Our base had been nickel most of the year because we were facing a lot of 3 wide receiver sets.
Correct.
But that's what happens when you have kind of you don't necessarily count on your front to stop to get pressure or stop the run. You kind of have to just line up with what the opposing offense is doing and kind of play a bend but don't break type defense. That's what ASU was doing most of the year. Unfortunately, against a team that can run the ball fairly well, you're going to struggle. It's got a good running back with some speed. You're going to struggle. And exactly what happened here. I mean, the fact that Michael Wiley had averaged almost 18 yards a carry says it all, pretty much. And that was ultimately the difference, for the Cats offense. The fact they were able to run the ball as well as they were. They ran for 280 yards as a team. It wasn't just him. Jonah Coleman and DJ Williams, both of their backups had touchdown runs as well. So, and it was a very, it was kind of got a sloppy game, especially towards the end. It got very chippy. There was a run. It was a big, big blow up there at the end. Both benches emptied, and they got into it. And that's going to happen in a rivalry game. But it got ugly out there for a while.
Yeah. So you talk about riding that fine line between passion and emotion. It slipped clearly into where guys slipped into emotions, let their emotions get the better part of them. And it was unfortunate to see, really. I mean, heck, there were coaches out there in the field that were getting into things too. I didn't like the way that I didn't like it at all. But it's a rivalry, and it's going to happen. Where you look at that fine line between playing with emotion and playing with passion, and
totally
we crossed the line. Lost.
And 18 penalties for 219 yards combined as a team. I mean, it seemed like every time they scored, U of A was getting a personal foul for taunting.
Right.
And I mean, they did end up, U of A alone ended up with 10 penalties for 125 yards.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's something to be said for winning with class. Hats off to U of A. They definitely deserve to win, but they didn't handle it very well.
Right.
I don't think. But hey, when you've been losing for as many years as they have,
yeah,
winning's kind of become a foreign concept. Some can handle it, some can't.
Right. It's
we'll see. We'll see what happens. Enjoy this, U of A fans, because it's not going to last. Believe me.
No, it's.
But some of the stars from the game for ASU did have good games. Valade, what else is new? 24 carries, 97 yards, and a touchdown. Came up, just shy of another 100-yard game. But this kid's been a revelation. This will be his only year as a Sun Devil, but we've been blessed to have him. And even though it was a bad season, Valade was definitely a bright spot on the offense this year. It's tough not having Daniel Ngata out there. After that concussion against Oregon State, I thought he still might play.
Yeah,
but he ultimately wasn't able to go. We were able to see more of Tevin White, which we haven't seen a whole lot.
That was refreshing. Yeah, sure was.
And he looked pretty good up until that fumble where he got rolled over on, and had the ball taken out. But that's something you can't see from a freshman. But I mean, it was good to see him get some run. He's definitely going to be a part of this offense next year.
Yep.
So hopefully we'll see some more consistent play from him.
And then Gio.
Another guy who
big game.
Has been kind of up and down this year. He's struggled with an injury, but really showed out in this game. Gio Sanders, 8 catches for 120 yards and a touchdown. It was really great to see him go out there and really ball out and show what he's capable of, especially when they were trying to take away, Badger and Conyers and some of these other guys that create opportunities for Gio Sanders, and he certainly took advantage. And catching his first touchdown of the year in this game was big as well. I'm looking forward to seeing
great story on that. Great story on Gio. Yeah. I love his story, how he's really hung in there, gone to 2 other schools and just kept betting on himself, got himself to the next level, and then when he got his opportunity.
That's been really great. He's another guy who's been when he's gotten opportunities, been a bright spot this year, and I think he's going to have in this offense that Kenny Dillingham is going to run. Gio Sanders will have a role that he can fill, and will get opportunities in.
He could very easily be the top 1 or 2 receiver next year with his skill set. I just really like. I like the precision of his routes and how he what he does after catch.
Yeah, and then when Bourget had to kind of improvise, and that's when he found Gio for the touchdown. He broke off his route and found that hole in the defense.
Right.
Great. And then Jalen Conyers, 10 receptions for 76 yards and a touchdown. Great to see him come into his own this year. It looks like he is going to leave for the NFL, though, and after the season that he's had, where he just really took that tight end 1 role and ran with it, and with the plays that he's made after the catch, he's just been a 38 catches, 422 yards, and 5 touchdowns on the season. It's definitely been a big part of this offense, and somebody that
he really was a breath of fresh air.
It's going to suck to lose, but looking forward to seeing him play on Sundays.
I thought the second half of his year, really kind of starting at Stanford in Colorado, really started to pull away as being the playmaker, on this squad. And I kind of thought, that I really liked Swinson in camp, what he was able to do, but he just really didn't turn to be, he was nowhere close to what Conyers' production could look like. And I really think, and I hate to say this, but I know quarterbacks have favorite receivers after a while that make them look good, as far as their catch radius. And I do think that Bourget really kind of honed in on him, as far as being somebody he could count on to get any kind of ball.
Yeah, as a quarterback, you get into a rapport with certain receivers, and you just tend to look for them out there. And I think that's what kind of happened in this case. But Messiah Swinson, even though he walked on senior day, he has eligibility left, so he could potentially come back next year.
Oh yeah.
We'll see on that. It's kind of a toss up, I think, whether or not he comes back. but we'll see on him. And then this game apparently was good enough for Jed Fish to earn a contract extension today through 2027.
You win your rivalry game and you get 5 years.
Getting a contract extension. There's a job I'd like to have.
Man, that's incredible. But you know what? They've made a lot of improvements since last year. And,
yeah. They're a far cry from from the 70-7 team, from 2 years ago. Certainly, they are much improved. They definitely look like a legit Division I program. I don't know if they're going to compete for anything going forward.
Don't count on winning.
They're still a young team, so we'll see how they develop. But I've seen Jed Fish's track record, and again, I'm still not impressed. I don't know how much this team he really has to offer and what this team.
Well, this was
be going forward.
Yeah, his recruiting class, which was outstanding for them, was really predicated on playing time. So what is that? What's that got to do with next year? You can only play that card so many times.
Yeah.
I just don't think he's and he says all the right coach speak, and he's got things in perspective down there. It's a tough sell, and it's going to be tougher. I mean, I'll just tell you, folks, any recruit lining up one school, our school versus ASU versus U of A, cannot come away thinking that that's the better place to be as far as facilities and opportunity and where you want to live after football.
Yeah.
But
if you've ever been to Tucson, you have to you wonder why anybody stays down there.
You get some of the best Mexican
after school. I mean, I don't really know too many people who go to U of A and then stay there. So,
they come to school.
It is what it is. But then also worth mentioning, I think that Sparky Wilbur fight that went viral.
Yeah,
was definitely entertaining. Hey, we didn't win the game, but we won the fight. So
but you know what? I want this to be a lot better. If that's what the cheerleaders think they got to do to get on TV, I want our performance on the field to be what gets us on TV. And that was all. Of course, folks, don't be fooled. That was contrived. That was made up. The two guys had boxing gloves.
Yeah.
They had a belt ready to go. And if you thought that was real,
the fact that Sparky won the fight, and then the camera pans over to Borgay hitting Gio for the touchdown was pretty awesome.
Like I say, my greatest hope is that kind of stuff is not what gets us on national TV next year.
Of course not. And I watched Around the Horn and Pardon the Interruption this week, just to see if there was any mention of Kenny Dillingham's hire, and they kind of just threw it in on PTI as part of the coaching carousel, basically of the hires. It all does come down to performance on the field, and hopefully we'll see that improve here going forward. Now to wrap up the 2022 season. Our postseason awards. We had to give out our players of the year, some of just things that we're going to take away from this season. Besides the record, we'll certainly try to forget that. But some of the players and their performances this year certainly worth mentioning, and that's presented by Flagstar Bank. For all your mortgage needs, check out xllendingteam.com. And for me, offensive player of the year, I think it's got to go to Xavier Valade. Even though he only spent 1 year in Tempe, it was very memorable. And he's going to finish up one of the top, all-time players, rushing. He's going to finish 25 carries, 1,192 yards, 16 touchdowns. He's also the team's fourth leading receiver, with 37 receptions, 289 yards, and 2 touchdowns through the air. Jalen Conyers beat him by one catch. So,
I got a question for you. Where do you think?
Yeah.
Where do you think? X should be drafted. I mean, after this, he bet on himself and got himself really some great film.
He deserves to be drafted. Absolutely.
I think
almost 1,200 yards on the ground. Yeah.
I think that gets you in this. Let me put this way: you're going to Indianapolis for the combine, and and we'll see what happens from there. But I think there's a place for him in the league because of his durability and his he doesn't put the ball on the ground.
Well, yeah, and he's versatile. You know, you catch the ball in the backfield, kind of like, you know, you look at what Rashad White has become.
Yeah.
Tampa. I think there's a role for him on a team with that, you know, that kind of you know, that with that role, with that his ability to do that. So I absolutely expect to see him play on Sundays.
I hope so. And mine was you know, you took you made it kind of hard, Ryan, because taking X was the not only the player.
Well, it was between him. It was between him and Elijah Badger, and
sure.
I think Bourguet deserves some consideration, at least. But yeah, I thought it was between, for me, it was between him and Badger, and I think you made the right decision. I mean, it's not to say we could have had the same player either.
You can line up the statistics on this and say, okay, you look at what he did for receiving and had a very good year. But I think it was the impact of where he had his receptions and some of the spectacular plays. And so,
oh yeah,
you really saw what if he continues at this pace, at least next year, he could wind up getting him. He could be a first round draft pick. He's that impactful.
70 receptions, 866 yards, 7 touchdowns. You know, we were all he was everybody's preseason pick to be kind of the impact player, breakout player of the year. And I think he lived up to expectations. I think, you know, he definitely made some spectacular plays, showed he could be a wide receiver one, showed he could be an NFL receiver. And, you know, I'm really hoping that he stays, because I think in this, like, kind of like what I mentioned with Gio Sanders earlier, in this offense, he could be tremendous.
Well, and this coach's ability to design up plays and understand kind of how the modern game has, you know, how it's sort of schemed these days. I think he'll thrive with Dillingham's offense. But yeah, those are offensive players of the year. Defense, go ahead.
Yeah, I got to go Ro Torrance. This guy's been my guy for most of the year, I mean, he didn't really blow you away with his stats. I mean, only 36 tackles on the season. He did finally get an interception against U of A. I called that, by the way.
Right. That's right.
But 8 passes defense, and one of the fewest when it came to catches allowed and yards allowed on the season. The metrics, it's the metrics that really stick out to me when it comes to Ro Torrance. As a guy who comes in, you know, he was recruited out of high school to go to Auburn, so he knew he had the pedigree, he knew he had all the talent. The physical skills were definitely there, but seeing him put it together on the field and kind of be that, you know, that shutdown corner, which I think he was. You know, and I'd certainly like to see him get a little bit more consistent with his play next year. Maybe be a little bit more of a ball hawk, and I think that he puts that all together, and he's going to put himself in a good position to get drafted.
I thought that teams started going away from him. And that's why the production was low. You can't blame a guy when they're not throwing the ball to his side for the numbers that come up. But you could see sort of the intimidation of what that size does for you there, and his ability to play press. He played man better than anybody in that secondary.
Definitely, and that's why he's my defensive player of the year. It didn't really show up on the stat sheet, but what he did, you know, just shutting down one side of the field. I'd like to see them play a little bit more man, because of what he can do, and, you know, just top to bottom, you know, as far as being a good player on basically a bad defense.
Bad D.
You know, the fact that he was, you know, stuck out like that when it came to the metrics, that's why he definitely deserves praise.
He does, and so you left me again with with my guy Kyle, but he deserved it too. He led the team in tackles. What, 110?
Do you want to write the show? Because you can.
What I don't have the stats up because I've got the show here and you on this screen.
Kyle definitely had a tremendous year statistically. 110 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 2 interceptions, 2 pass defense.
And he didn't play again, and he missed a game. folks.
Yep,
I
only
mean,
played 11 games.
there's 10 to 15 tackles gone out of his
Yeah.
capability there just because he was gone. But and the kid played literally the entire season with a bad wing, and it got so bad at OSU he couldn't go. No, he
And he
played
is
at
going to
OSU.
have surgery on that labrum.
He's not.
In his shoulder.
He told me he's not because he wants to go to. It would take too long for the combines to heal.
Oh,
So they said the trainers have had all kinds of. He said off and on he's had this since high school. And there are all kinds of strengthening things you can do to tighten that up and to keep it nice and tight and strong. And he says, I'm not going to bother. He says, I'll deal with the pain. When I'm done with football, I'll have it fixed so I can lift my kids up. But but no, he said he's not going to bother. He's just going to keep doing what the trainers tell him to do to strengthen it. And and again, I think a player like this, um, with the right team, the right scheme, I think there's a place for him in pro ball too. He's going to have to just be they're going to have to really, somebody's got to know his game and what his strengths are. But I think he could find his way onto a roster next year. I used to think he was as good. He was a lot like the kid from Cal, Evan, who got brought onto the Cardinals.
Evan Fields, yeah.
No, not Evan Fields. Evan, the kid from Cal, who
Weaver.
Evan Weaver. Yeah, I thought he was a lot like Evan. I think Kyle's got a better game as far as his ability to drop and read, and his football IQ is very, very high. In that Cal system, Weaver was really a gap manager, uh, run first, cover anybody kind of guy.
Yeah.
But Kyle's much more. He showed him what he can do in passing lanes. He had a tip in this game. Really close.
A linebacker who can cover tight ends and who can play zone and keep the quarterback's eyes.
There's a place for that.
There's value there, definitely.
Yeah.
So
then we
definitely, it was great to see him have a great year and be kind of be that leader on that defense. And I'm gonna be sad to see him go because he's been a great Sun Devil.
He's a guy he's left it all on the field most every game. Special teams players.
Yeah, our special teams player of the year. I actually have to go with the punter, Eddie Zaplitsky. I feel like he had a great year as far as his distance goes. The distance was like 8th in the nation at over 46 yards per punt.
Right.
And he had like 16 punts over 50 yards. He downed a bunch of them inside the 20. Right. I just, when it comes to special teams, I think that he was kind of the MVP this year.
Yeah, he had more flipping of the field, I think, than we've had in quite some time.
Agreed.
And that ability to flip the field, is huge from a defensive standpoint. Like that kid a lot. I think there's a couple games he wish he had back where he put balls in end zones that the ball didn't stick. But I had a hard time with mine because I would have gone to Brown, but 11-4-14, that's not all pack material to me.
No.
Ngata's kickoff returns, while they weren't spectacular, there weren't anything. He did have a 50-yarder, I believe, at one point this year. But he was probably, and while we were kind of all counting on DJ Taylor to be the man,
he's a freshman too. So
right. So in the big scheme of things, I thought Ngata really stepped up and did a nice job when it was obvious that DJ wasn't. I mean, he got hurt. You can see it in the way he ran after USC. He just wasn't the same guy, and he got healthy near the end of the season, but his consistency wasn't there. So I had to go with Ngata. So. And I think if you had to pick one of the two, I'd probably take our punter. I'd take Eddie. So who do we got left? We got moment of the year.
Yeah, our moment of the year. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with the upset win versus Washington, especially when you look back at it now and the season that Washington ended up having, finishing one of the top teams in the Pac-12. That was I think that was the second game of Sean Aguano. Second, I think it was the third actually of Sean Aguano's time as the interim head coach. That was huge. Nobody really saw that coming, and that was the game. Obviously, Emory Jones gets hurt. Trent Bourguet comes in, takes control of that offense, and leads them to a win. That was just tremendous. And it was a great game to be a part of. And even though it was right before fall break, so the crowd was a little sparse, seeing the people that were there rush the field.
Yeah, it was great to take
was a great feeling in kind of a forgettable season.
It kind of, what you like in football is when you've got a team's number and you keep getting their number from
Washington
year to year.
in Tempe, yes, we definitely have their number.
We got their number. It's pretty amazing. And I don't know if they're looking past us. Whatever it is, they've come in here rated us several times, and we seem to play. Maybe it's that time of year.
2017 when they were a top 5 team.
That's right.
Definitely.
Oh yeah, we took the field. We ran on the field that game too.
Yep.
And so I had this was not that hard. I thought Jalen Conyers' big breakout game was Colorado with the 3 TDs, and he came this close, folks. He came within a half a yard of making it 4. So
right.
he would have broke all the records at that point. But no, it was just that was a monster game, and I think that's where things really started clicking between he and Trenton. So that's the kind of game you want if you want to get to the next. You want to play in the league. So. Good for Jalen. Great guy. Really has bet on himself coming here, and despite the team's overall lack of success, he really did stand out. So,
and then our biggest surprise of the season, I mentioned Trenton Bourget coming in and being kind of bringing some stability to the quarterback position. And leading the team the way he did was really great to see after coming off the bench like that when Emory Jones was ineffective as he was. And then the Herm Edwards departure. I don't think anyone saw that loss to Eastern Michigan coming. And after a game like that, someone had to lose their job, and unfortunately, it was Herm Edwards. And we say goodbye to Herm. It's tough to do. You never like to lose a coach mid-season, but after the players that they lost and the way things were with the NCAA investigation, it was just kind of, I think, better that it happened sooner rather than later, but it still was tough for it to happen when it did.
I'm still going to contend that basically he was out of here anyway. He was gone at the end of this, regardless if we, season, I don't care if we won the pack. I don't care if we lost every game. He was gone. His family had already left. He had fulfilled the bargain, so to speak. And I think the what was hanging over us in terms of NC2A was just too big. That and the discipline. I don't think he ever got his team in a position to stop the stupid fouls and all just the preponderance of fouls. And they were, that was under your control. You can you can control your effort, you can control your discipline, how you behave and how you run your team and your practice. What Iguana was so successful at, obviously, was instilling accountability and some discipline to this thing. I think everybody was glad to see that it was time, and it was a markedly different team as a result. But yes, while it was surprising that it happened to, I think it was the team that beat us was surprising. I think this was if we had beaten Eastern Michigan, it probably would have happened later in the year. You get
the fact
that we got, Stanford was unacceptable in a way, losing by a point, but at that point things were in chaos, and we didn't play Trenton, but how different of a season would that have been had Zaplicki lined up the laces correctly and got that made, and Brown would have made that field goal. Probably you win that game. It doesn't change what happens.
Well, that was still Iguana's team, though.
Yeah, and I think Iguana was still fighting for the control of that, of who was going to call the offense. And after that, he said, "That's it. Trenton's my guy. He could have put Trenton in the second half of that Stanford game. He didn't. But he clearly said, "We're going to change the direction of this offense." He took control of it, and good for him. That he asserted himself.
And making that call is never easy.
No.
So the fact that he did that, I think definitely shows a sense of leadership and not just sticking with the status quo and something that was clearly not working.
He wasn't just playing for coach wasn't just playing for victories for ASU. He was playing for his career. And so there was a lot at stake. So my biggest surprise, really, I thought we would have just in the way things were shaping up in practice and in spring ball and in the fall ball, that we actually had a little more depth than we had. I knew we were going to be thin, but I didn't think we were going to be this thin. That was a big surprise to me. And my other, and there was some very pleasant breakout player. At the beginning of the year, you and I kind of picked breakout players we were expecting good things from. But Valladay was in every way a breakout player.
Right.
Badger we expected, but I think to me he exceeded my expectations. And then Conyers coming on.
Everybody's expectations.
Yeah, I think those three players really did have big breakout years. So those were my biggest surprises. And so, what do we have? Oh,
that'll do it for the 2022 season. We turn the page. Thank God. Three wins, worst record since '46. It's over. Push past it. Time to think about 2023, and it starts with the new head coach, Kenny Dillingham. He was hired fairly quickly. So I think it was he was introduced Sunday.
Yep.
And after the team had just finished, played their last game on Friday, he comes in on a Sunday. I'm glad they didn't wait. They couldn't really afford to with the transfer portal coming up here on the 5th.
Yeah.
It was good that they got somebody in here quick, and I think they got the right guy. And when you look at his resume, when he was 17 years old, he tore his ACL during his senior year at Chaparral, and he just decided right then, hey, I'm going into coaching. He started coaching middle schoolers. He helped out on JV, and got himself started early. That's why 15 years later he's head coach here, and then was after he left an analyst under Mike Norvell, graduated from ASU,
right,
became a grad assistant at Memphis, worked his way up to quarterback, tight ends coach, offensive coordinator. That number one recruiter.
That's a tough conference. Big conference. Yeah.
And then, getting his first big job at Auburn as a quarterbacks coach under Bo Nix. He wasn't really calling plays then.
Correct. He was more of a coordinator.
Yeah, and it was tough to. It's tough to develop, even as a young coach, especially one in your 20s. It's tough to develop young players in the SEC.
Yeah.
Especially, with Auburn, with the schedule that they have. And, I think that people didn't really see what Bo Nix could be at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But after that stop in Florida State with Norvell, moving on to Oregon this past year, and what he did to develop Bo Nix and that offense was extremely impressive. I know a lot of people are going to point to that Oregon State game over the weekend, but Bo Nix and Kenny Dillingham can't go out there and play defense.
No, that's correct.
So,
but you think about that. That was a 2 year in the process, 2 years in the making, right?
Yeah.
And what better guy? And that you can argue, Bo went to Oregon where he thought he had talent, but he also had Kenny Dillingham.
Mm-hmm.
And so you look at this whole resume and you say, wow, 32 years old. I look at it and say, he's accomplished everything that you'd want in a 45-year-old, but he's just been compressed into a short.
And he started so much sooner. He kind of figured he wasn't gonna make it as a player,
right?
But he still loved the game. He goes into coaching, learns the ropes, pays his dues, and it was a little bit accelerated because you go from that Chaparral to ASU was about 7 years.
Yeah.
Give or take. He at the high school level.
Yep.
So, he definitely had to pay his dues before he got his shot at ASU as an analyst. But, he still got where he wanted to be, and his, acumen and football IQ and his ability to develop players, I think, certainly speaks for itself.
Yeah. At every one of these stops, folks, he has led men. Not just players. He's led men much older than him in the position rooms and in the offensive scheme when they sit down and scheme a game. He's led men, and you don't get this far and keep getting promoted if you can't lead people, right? Leading people is being compelling, having the right answers, having good judgment.
And that's the trick with college too, with college coaches. I don't mean to cut you off.
No,
but the difference between a great coach and a good coach and a great coach is the fact that they can turn young men into grown men.
Mm-hmm.
That's the big thing. That's kind of the trick that not every coach can do, and also makes the difference between a player liking you to going to turning around and respecting you and be willing to run through a wall for you.
He said some things in his presser that really resonated with me. One was, all these kids are really looking for is somebody to be honest with them.
Yes.
Right. Tell them the truth about what's going on out there.
Yes.
Tell them how it is. And the second thing he says, today everybody says, "Oh, the kids are different. The kids are different player. The players are different in this age." And he says, "No, they're not. They're still the same. It's just what we've allowed them to get away with."
Yes.
And I think that's brilliant.
Yeah.
And so
very insightful. I agree.
Very insightful, and he's right. No, human nature hasn't changed. We've become more tolerant of not being disciplined, not being on time, not being accountable, not being a good teammate.
True.
And so I expect some real, a little bit of cushion there too, thrown in on top of what he's doing here, and he's surrounding himself with those kind of people. We'll get into that in a minute.
Yeah, but I think especially when you look at what else was out there, a lot of people were throwing around Deion Sanders, and that's certainly a flashy name and one that could certainly get hired. He's got it could get hired this weekend at Colorado, among other schools. Certainly, so I mean, I know a lot of people were disappointed they didn't go that direction. I know you had considered Tom Herman, just got hired at Florida Atlantic. The fact that didn't really wasn't really in serious consideration for another Power 5 job. I think kind of speaks to the to where the thinking was with him.
Yeah, and he got interviewed. He was interviewed, by the way.
Yeah, he was interviewed. Things about him. He's kind of tough to get along with.
Yeah.
And what have you? So
he didn't win the interview.
Passing on him, I think, was the right move.
Yep. In retrospect, if you can't interview well and you can't win over the people in the room, it's going to be tough. So, no doubt about it.
I won't even get into the your car wreck that was Mickey Joseph.
Yeah, yeah, it's unfortunate. I hope he gets. I hope he gets the help he needs going forward.
But he interviewed for the job, and what's come out. I mean, hindsight is 2020, but what's come out about him now just makes you shake your head and think, just wipe your brow and thank God they didn't go that direction. In any case, but just breaking down, Kenny Dillingham, first, like I mentioned before, first Arizona native and the first ASU alum, main head coach. I think that's something that a lot of people have called for in years past when they've been looking for coaches.
Oh, it worked for Willie Bloomquist. He's here because of that exact reason. That the boosters and the fans, the boards all kept saying, we want an ASU guy who gets this market, who doesn't want to not looking at this as a stepping stone.
Yeah, and a lot of people were throwing around the possibility Mike Norvell might get fired at Florida State, but they had a strong finish to their season, and that wasn't realistic. Same goes for Billy Napier. I think he's still got some growing to do at Florida. Guys who've been here before, but hiring somebody who's actually gone to high school here, grew up close to ASU, went to ASU. That's something different than somebody who had a coaching past, a stop at ASU. It's very different, and somebody who can appreciate what ASU is and also have seen what it can be.
Who Dillingham's first Zoom call was with in terms of en masse high school coaches. His the very first day, got all the coaches, all the Arizona high school coaches on the line and told them how it's going to be. The second call was with who it was?
Don't keep me in suspense.
All right, the second call has been the big one was today. He got all the former players on the
he had like 100 former players. That was today, yes. And
that's a great message, right? Oh, I'm sorry. His second call, pardon me. Second call was to all the parents out there and thanking them and really recognizing what a contribution they made. The third call was today was all of the former players, and I really every new coaches come in here gives lip service to it. In the first year, they all get free tickets, and after that, they don't.
Yeah.
There's going to be more than just free tickets involved in this thing. I guarantee you. With Kenny's love of the institution and his appreciation, and there's not a high school coach. He doesn't have a
Yeah, and
relationship with.
that connection, that appreciation for the past, and not forgetting about that, I think is extremely important.
Even his biggest rivals, Saguaro, huge respect. He and Mons have a great relationship, and
I think the fact that he's gotten some criticism for as young as he is at 32, but hey, Frank Kush was 29 when he took over as head coach.
Correct.
So that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Well, we have to have a certain degree of patience about this too. Frank did not have his first year was not very good. Okay, he didn't have any players, but yeah, we've got to take all of this and understand that if you really want to build,
and it was a different game back then. As far there was no transfer portal, there was no NIL. There's you can turn it around. You have the ability to turn it around quicker than just you can get it done in more than 3 seasons now.
Oh, he had unlimited rosters back then. 3 seasons. Yeah, he had unlimited rosters, unlimited scholarships back then. So he had some things in his favor too.
Yeah, true.
But yeah, it was and what did he do? He went back and Frank relied on his high school connections and to coaches back in Pennsylvania, where he came from, and he pulled a lot of great guys back out of the East Coast to come out here and live in the sunshine. It was not a tough. If you can get them out here, they won.
Yeah,
won the day.
And then
so
one of his you mentioned some of the first some of his first actions as a head coach. Reaching out to the high school coaches, reaching out to the alums, reaching out to the parents, all great moves. Mm-hmm. But then he also reached into his past and brought on some assistants that he knew from Chaparral, guys with college coaching experience and head coaching experience. In Charlie Regal's case, he was the head coach at Idaho State this past year, and Vince Amy was his D-line coach up there, and now they're both on staff here. As you can see, Charlie Regal, assistant head coach, special teams coordinator. He's also going to work with the defense. And it looks like Sean Aguano is going to be retained. We don't know what his official position or title will be as of yet. And then also strength and conditioning coach Joe Connolly is going to retain. Don't know if those are going to be the only guys retained. There is some speculation. There could be 1 or 2 others. Mm-hmm. But it's tough to say goodbye to a coach like Robert Rodriguez, who was so beloved by his players, and definitely a standout on the coaching staff this year. Mm-hmm. But I've met Vince Amy a couple times. He's definitely got a good head on his shoulders, well spoken. For him to go be a player on that '96 team. So he's been to the top of the mountain. He's seen what it takes to get there.
Smell the roses.
Yes, and he's been a coach at just about every level along the way as well. Mm-hmm. High school, he also coached in the AAF and the US and the XFL.
XFL, right?
They coached at U of A.
U of A.
Under Rich Rodriguez.
Yes.
That's definitely some good. And then Charlie Regal, he was at U of A as well. He's also at Cal. He's got a lot of relationships locally.
He's a good recruiter, guys.
So they're definitely making it seems like at least early on, they're definitely making an effort to focus on local recruiting.
And these
that past coaches just haven't put enough emphasis on.
Yeah, both of these guys are recruiters, and both of these guys so far this is their dream job. This is where they've always wanted to be. So that counts for a lot in my book.
Definitely.
I'm glad they're here.
What other coaching hires come down the pipe? I mean, I know I've been glued to my phone, checking my Twitter feed. Whatever comes down here in the next few days.
All hours.
I know Dillingham's, he's kind of waiting for the high school playoffs to end to probably bring in some other coaches. Mm-hmm. Or just, at least have interviews with guys. And, I'm hoping that he's not done. But one thing I will say that I think definitely needs to be addressed is his ability to recruit California. Mm-hmm. Also needs to be, a priority. All the best teams at ASU, even the ones that had, great players from Arizona, they also had great players from California. That is definite recruiting territory, and you definitely want to hit some of the other nearby states, Colorado certainly, among others. But I definitely think that they need to make a point of recruiting California. Hopefully, he can get a guy who has inroads there, who has relationships with coaches there. That's got to be a priority, I think. And then also a great
long term. Short term, they're going to have to think portal. You're going to have
probably yes.
rebuild your D line, but they don't want to do that. That's not something that's forever, folks. If you see us hit the portal,
they've already kind of done that initially. Today they got the first commitment in the Kenny Dillingham era, getting Adonis Forrest Jr. from college, JUCO safety from College of the Canyons in California, who has a really good relationship with Vince Amy. And hopefully he's a big kid, 6'4", 210. So certainly see him come in and make an impact next year. They're going to need to rely on transfer portal guys, JUCO guys, to come in and play right away to kind of fill out this roster and make it competitive. At least, like you said, in the short term. But
you have to build the underclass.
Have guys on the staff who can recruit well out of state as well.
That's right. But you're going to have to be very mindful of, let's say you have 22, 24 spots up this year with on this year's as far as number of kids you can bring in. I wouldn't be surprised if half of them again are portal guys or more. More.
Very true.
But no, that's they're mindful
of guys who can play right away, but you also you kind of want to find that balance of guys that you can develop and who can turn into starters once those portal guys move on.
Yeah. I guarantee you right now in the war room, they're lining up they're looking at 1, 2, and 3 deep at every position.
They got a big board. Oh yeah,
they got a big board, and they know what's going on, and they know who's going to be leaving, and they know who's out of here, who's graduating out. But and it's who do you know in California? Who do you know has got a linebacker? Who do you know in California? Who do you know in all these spots? And while there's a few, there's some good Arizona kids. It can't be all of it. I'm sorry. And I'll tell you every year there's between 5 and 8 really D1 kids that worthy of being, and we have whiffed on.
Not just D1 but Power 5.
Power 5 level. That's correct. Power 5 level kids and to have kids not even look at us, not even be brought in, is really it's just unacceptable to me. I mean,
that's something that I think they're going to get away from. Certainly, keeping the best of the best here is definitely going to be a top priority. And just one more thing for me, as far as the coaching search goes, I think you've got to get a defensive coordinator in here who can scheme and who can dial some things up and is going to take advantage of the talent on his roster to the fullest extent, because at times this defense just looked embarrassed.
Well, I think we filled a lot of spots. Quite frankly, we were thin going into last year, but we filled a lot of spots with portal people who just were. I don't think they were ever going to play, and a lot of them are going to leave. They're going to be shown, told that you should play someplace else. The opportunity is elsewhere for you.
It's not a place for you here.
Right. And we have that
happens with a coaching turnover. Like this, so that's not surprising. It's just that's something that I'd like to see going into next year. Our defense improve and take a step forward. And then we kind of mentioned some of these things, as far as departures in the transfer portal. Gonna see some guys go. I mean, it's already happened. We saw Paul Tyson, the quarterback, who just transferred in from Alabama. Mm-hmm. He's already in the portal. Anthony Cooper went in the portal today, the defensive end. Mm-hmm. There's, I don't think it's official yet, but it's sounding more and more like Omar Norman Lott is going to be in the portal as well. It's, I think they're kind of starting over a little bit in depth wise when it comes to the quarterback position. Mm-hmm. Guys like Finn Collins, Dalen McLemore, mm-hmm. It sounds like they're going to be gone.
Well, they may just drop down. Yeah, they may drop down to a division if they want to play. That probably would be the best thing.
That's kind of what it has to be at this point. They haven't mm-hmm. really shown their ability to beat out a former walk-on in Trent Bourget, so where we are at this point. but you're going to see a lot of guys. See some guys forego, I think, some eligibility and go into the draft. We're already seeing Jalen. Sounds like Jalen Conyers, although it's not official. Everything he's saying on Twitter and what's being discussed, he's going to go into the league. I thought Ladarius Henderson had a year of eligibility.
He does.
I think he's going into the league as well. And he walked on senior day, so I thought he would be gone. They're losing they're losing two other starters in Chris Martinez and Des Holmes off the offensive line, which is tough. There are going to be some departures. We know the Markham twins are already gone. They missed half the year.
Yeah.
Isaiah Johnson had the corner had some discipline issues. He didn't play about half the games this year.
Right. And today, Tamarcus Davis put himself in too.
Yeah.
Right.
That's another one.
Which is not, it's not the end of the world. I mean, he's still a young player, but he still got exposed last year, and he got exposed this year.
He got beat way too often for me this
year.
And that to me, they're better guys on the roster as it is. Mm-hmm. And I just, I think that the team liked his experience, but I still think that there are better guys out there. And, you're going to have to hit the transfer portal. There are already guys that put their names in.
Yep.
I'm talking about from other teams.
Mm-hmm.
That I think that you absolutely have to target. With Dillingham's departure, I saw a lot of Oregon skill position guys.
Yeah.
Portal. It'd be interesting to see how many end up here.
I'll give you the kid out of Stanford who put his name in yesterday. The old line, the offensive line, defensive. Yeah. O lineman.
Hornibrook.
That's it.
Love to see him here. I think
I would too.
Come in and be an impact player right away.
They were well vetted coming into that program, and if they just didn't find their spot, it's kind of like it's sort of it's not because nobody gets into that program being a lackey, and just filling out a uniform. They don't just give out uniforms to kids.
They used to say this about Notre Dame too. There is no back door into Stanford. There's only the front door.
That's right.
And they used to say that about Notre Dame, but the same is true for Stanford as well. And the edge rusher Stephen Herron, who had a nice game against ASU this year too, would be nice to see here.
And losing their coach, by the way, Stanford losing their coach,
David Shaw resigning. Yep.
That's a change, really, I think we could really be taken advantage of. I'm not saying we're getting Stanford's players. I'm just saying there's going to be a vacuum there for a while, and we can go into that. We can go into that territory, take some people, but in other words, players who were considering going to Stanford because of Shaw and the ability to get to the league may be questioning that now, and because it's not known. I mean, they have to name a coach here pretty quick. They want to get the ship righted.
Very true.
But a lot of respect for that guy. I've always thought Shaw could coach at the next level too. By the way, at the pros,
there was some consideration for him too. Be interesting to see what happens with him now. I think he probably goes into broadcasting at least in the short term.
Yeah.
Don't be surprised if he doesn't go back into coaching at some point.
Right. He needs a break.
In this offseason, with it appears that we're losing, what are the priorities as far as recruiting and hitting the portal?
Yeah.
Or do you think? Well, for me, I know we both talked about this, but for me, it starts and ends with both the lines.
Yeah. And if you had to pick one or the other, I'd say the D line probably has the most
D-line, yes,
immediate need, and then we're gonna need to bring in another linebacker, right? Too, I think. But so it's kind of like for me, D-line
losing Kyle Soley and Merlin Robertson. Yeah, yes. that was your linebacking core for the most part.
Heart and soul of the team. Yeah. And while Connor Soley and Will Schaefer are going to be good players, going to be better next year, they don't have that. There's a physical ability and then sort of the leadership ability out there. It's going to be a vacuum. So I could really see a need for a linebacker, a good linebacker transfer. But then it's going to be all O line and maybe finding that a key running back to really bolster some things up here.
One guy that I was looking at that UCLA has some serious interest in is Anthony Adkins from Army.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a guy that I would love to see come here. I think he could fit in extremely well in Kenny Dillingham's offense. And you know, somebody I mentioned, I put that online the other day, and somebody, you know, gave me crap because, you know, a guy from Army is not going to come to ASU, but yet he's going to go to UCLA.
Yeah, no. That's no.
Tell me how that works.
Well, so I'm going to just throw the kid from Detroit, the quarterback from Detroit, the 5-star Dante.
Yeah,
Drake.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and that's one guy.
How realistic?
I mean,
I know he likes Dillingham a lot.
Dillingham was his primary recruiter.
Correct. You know? And there's been a lot of I know he's been tagging him on all of his tweets lately and things. I just wonder if that's going to be for real, if we really do have a shot at him, because that could be a even though it's Trenton's job next year, it's we could have a quarterback controversy.
You also have Israel Carter coming in from Corona Centennial.
Yep.
Another guy who, you know, I don't think can start from day one, certainly, but certainly a guy that you look, 2-3 years down the road could certainly, if he stays with the program, could certainly fit in well in this offense. And, you know, and Kenny Dillingham mentioned this in his press conference. He's going to take advantage of, you know, the wide open offense that the Pac-12 is known for, and he's going to make an offense that skill position guys are going to love to play in, and as a result, quarterbacks are going to love to play in.
Yeah.
So if he can get a guy like that, especially in his first recruiting class, I think that sends a big time message.
Oh, it does. A 5-star that changes.
I don't know how realistic that's going to be. I mean, we'll see how it all plays out, but yeah, if he could swing that somehow, it'd be tremendous. So hopefully we'll see that.
What do you think about a kid like Jacoby Lane coming in here from Red Mountain?
Tremendous. That's another guy. You know, I feel like if you can get another receiver opposite of Elijah Badger,
right,
complement him and take some of the focus off of him, I think that would be amazing. And
if you haven't seen him play, just go look at YouTube highlights of Jacoby Lane.
It's fantastic.
Oh my God. And it's one-handed Cirque du Soleil stuff. It's just phenomenal. If you thought Brandon Ayuk his senior year was on fire, this kid is 6'6" Brandon Ayuk.
That's high praise.
Yeah, no, he's crazy good.
I believe it. I mean, it certainly sounds like something that he's, I've seen his film. Certainly seems like something that he's capable of. I would love to see him here. I know he definitely likes it here. We'll have to see. That's another name I'm definitely going to keep an eye on.
That's a big one for me.
Hopefully they can get him to stay home.
Yeah.
We'll talk about all of this in the spring though, when spring kind of finishes up and spring ball is done, and we'll have a better idea, I think, of what to expect for this season. But I would like to see another feature back, because I like Ngata and I like Kevin White. I just don't know if at this point they're
every down backs,
featured number one backs.
Exactly.
They're gonna look for somebody maybe in the lower levels who could come in and be that guy. But yeah, I mean, you definitely got to build up some depth on the O line to make this offense go. When you have a good O line, so much of what you want to do on offense is possible. Opens up so much more. So I think what they have here is good. You're going to get Joey Ramos back next year. I feel like him getting hurt so early in the season really hurt, but I think Emmett Boley is going to continue to improve now that he's had a season under his belt. Same goes for Isaiah Glass. I think Ben Scott, kind of struggled at times in his first full year as a starting center.
Ben Bray coming back.
Ben Bray is another name who should be good at depth, but you want to bring in some guys who are going to help grow that depth and who can come in and start from day one.
Right.
We're going to hopefully make a positive impact and help this offense go.
So. But by the way, back to the portal for a second. I think I sent you some stats on the number
Yes.
of kids who enter the portal, and the numbers are big, folks. The number of people, and it's largely people who have been trapped in a program that they want out of. They weren't getting a lot of playing time, or the grass is greener.
Oh yeah.
But it comes down to this: only 40, somewhere between 36 and 40% of kids who enter actually get a new position, a new school. So it means 60% or higher never find a home, and that's the end of their football career. So you got to be.
That's crazy.
It is crazy.
Yeah.
It's not the portal is not necessarily the thing it solves it for a very few highly skilled players
Sure.
that just needed. Some of them wanted NIL money. Some of them wanted to finish off their last year or two with a lot of good film. Some would just want to win. They want to win something. I get all that. It wasn't my playing career. I didn't win anything in college, but I kept playing in amateur ball and all around until I finally won a championship, and then all of the anxiety, all the anxiety dreams went away.
Mm.
All the nightmares,
Yeah.
of showing up to a match with no shoes or no pants, or all those weird anxiety dreams you have about competing. But no, I just think the portal is you get the grass is not always greener, kids.
Yeah. You know why the grass is greener on the other side?
Hmm.
It's fertilized with bullshit.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. Good one.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, those stats were certainly making the rounds online this week, and rightfully so. I mean, that's it's not, sometimes transferring is not always the best move, and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of these guys, they end up, they go in the portal, they end up never playing again. They end up, just going to school elsewhere. They may end up back at the school where they started. I mean,
Or they're dropping down a division. That's a
yeah. I
perfectly
mean,
reasonable.
especially when you got all these new high school kids coming in,
Mm-hmm.
you still got the JUCO. The JUCO are still out there. So,
Well, the thing that was so upsetting to me about the last couple of years in college recruiting is that the kids in the seniors in high school who got sort of screwed over because of COVID, and because of all the extra years that everybody got tacked on,
yeah,
who were already playing. So there's a lot of seniors who just never got to get to play ball,
very
and
true.
very frustrating for a lot of people I know. And so I think that's all working itself out now, but as well it should. That's behind us, and
Yeah,
we really start to see what's really capable. I mean, a lot of kids had to go to JUCOs and stuff just to keep competing and not lose eligibility.
yeah,
But no, I'm glad we're that that's behind us now, and that and clearly, COVID and the way that the various conferences managed it and handled it made a big difference. The Big Ten and Big 12 not locking down, that that put those conferences way ahead of the game as
no,
far as
yeah,
I'm concerned.
definitely,
You know,
yeah,
so
and
there's some definite needs, and we have not talked about the NC2A. The one thing that I feel very confident about is that this current staff, the Dillingham era, as we're going to call it, is not afraid of what's coming next. I think they know, they've been briefed on what the potential sanctions look like, and it's not scaring them.
yeah, it didn't prevent them from taking the job. So
No.
obviously not. And yeah, I think that's encouraging when it finally does come down. I don't think it'll be as bad as some people are making it out to be.
If it goes to the level of lack of institutional control, it really doesn't affect
Yeah,
these
because it
guys.
was previous regime, right?
Exactly. Those people won't be coaching ball again.
Yeah.
Uh, but Herm's gone. Um, I don't know. Does it bug you seeing Herm on ESPN smiling?
Well, he's a guy. That's just who he is. That's
Yeah,
not.
I understand.
I don't take it as like a personal affront
Yeah,
or anything.
we wish him well.
It's tough to see, especially when you consider how good the first 2-3 years were. It looked like things. It looked like this was working. It looked
Yeah.
like things were going in the right direction, especially when you consider the type of players that we were getting.
Yep.
Look at what some of them are doing in the league now, and it's like,
Yep.
Herm seemed like he knew what he was doing there for a while, and just
I
change it, how quickly it changes. It can change that quickly.
Yeah, COVID really took the wind out of a lot of program sales, and so people have been asking me, there's something else going on at Stanford, something else going on at Stanford. I said, dude, they were as affected as anybody.
Oh yeah,
up there. They shut down programs, 11 different sports up there.
Yeah.
You didn't have the full confidence of their administration and their alumni. I still think that they probably got as affected as anybody.
But it certainly showed in their record the past couple of years.
Oh yeah,
that's a big reason why David Shaw resigned.
Yeah. Well, he made a really good point.
Guy for the program anymore.
He had a good point. He says we suffer under portal. We can't get the same kind of players in here.
Yeah, they can't get those kids eligible. I know.
And I think we pointed this out a couple of times. When a kid gets to his fifth and 6 years of COVID, because they had to go into a grad program and they couldn't get into grad school because and so a lot of those kids had to leave. We benefited from that,
Oh yeah.
But anyway, I think the expectations are nowhere but up right now, and we do have a lot of needs. That's why we will hit the portal hard, but at the same time, these guys are mindful that they have to start building that underclass, the underclass
for
of
the
players.
Future. Yes.
Right. So anybody they're bringing the portal is coming into play now.
Yeah.
And they've got to be
as they should. That's what the portal's there for. Kids that have been in other programs, they've developed. Physically, they've seen the field to some extent.
Yep.
Now, I think it's time. They're needed elsewhere.
Look at our most
transition to a more permanent solution.
The most valuable player on this team, most successful, and you pointed out, was Baladay.
Yep.
Where did he come from?
Wyoming.
And who recruited him? Sean Aguano.
Right? Yes.
He really honed in on the right guy, the right school, the right character, he vetted the whole thing. So I really give that guy a lot of credit. And I think that's why so if you have to ask me where I'm going to put Sean Aguano, I've got to put him right in the middle of that recruiting effort. If not the recruiting coordinator, maybe you make him the offensive running game coordinator as well, keep him involved. But in that side of things, but no, I think Sean's definitely got a good
He's
future.
Definitely going to have his fingerprints on recruiting going forward.
Oh, he should as well. He should. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think there's any debate about that.
Yeah.
So that'll do it for us here. We say dilly dilly. It's the dilly dilly time.
Have fun with it.
Looking forward to seeing what Kenny Dillingham does. He's going to activate the Valley. Love to see that. Want to see more Arizona kids on ASU's roster because that's how it should be, and especially with the way Arizona high school football has grown in leaps and bounds, especially even since I played, especially in the last 20 years. It's amazing. Between the 7-on-7 camps and
huge.
It's just taken a quantum leap from where it was 20 years ago. So that's that stigma that Arizona high school football is not cannot produce great players is just plain wrong.
No.
So it's time for some of those kids to stay home and help out this program, and hopefully we'll be able to see some of these kids play on Saturday and get Arizona State back to where it belongs, and hopefully competing for conference championships and whatnot.
I've said this to you before. All you got to do to prove yourself that this is capable, folks, look at what Oregon State's been able to do under Jonathan Smith in 5 years.
Oh yeah.
And I will tell you, they cannot pull anywhere close to the kind of caliber of athletes that we can have at this school. But look at where they are.
You ever been to Corvallis? You don't want to.
It's a great place to stop and have a good weekend. Go walk on the coastline. But no, you're not going to live there when you get out of football. It's
exactly.
You go there for the foliage and the beach, and rain and more rain and more rain. But no, but if a program like that can do it with a former player, right, an alum who really rallied that marketplace, they believe they're a 9-win team, and they're going to go to a great bowl. They came this close to playing for the championship this year. So
yeah,
if it can be done there, it can be done here because we can attract much better caliber of players.
I
here.
agree.
You just know it. Why that they get 2 and 3 stars, we can get 4 and 5 stars.
Yeah.
So that's my take.
I agree.
There's precedent for this, folks. This is not we're not talking unicorns and rainbows here. So
it has happened before. It can happen again.
Yeah.
So keep your heads up. Keep your heads up, Sun Devil Nation. It's it's a tough year, but things will get better. I promise. And we'll be here to talk about it. We look forward to seeing you in 2023. Hope everyone had a safe and happy Thanksgiving. Have a great New Year, and we'll see you coming up this spring. We can't wait. So we say good night. We sign off. Go Devils. Forks up. Dilly
Forks up. Dilly dilly. Let's get it.